The clock struck 2, and telephone workers and operators were off the job formally as the first nationwide strike against the Bell system in 21 years went into effect. Locally, over 4,000 members of the Communications Workers of America in Dallas and another 1,500 in Fort Worth are on strike. In Dallas, the work stoppage got off to an unexpected early start as iron workers on strike themselves set up pickets of their own at the Southwestern Bell office at 4100 Bryan. About 1,200 arriving CWA people refused to cross the picket lines. Local union leaders James Holbrook, president of CWA 6215, and Roy Parrish, area spokesman of Local 6290, representing the Western Electric workers, explained that the strike is specifically against the Bell subsidiary, Western Electric, but is being honored by all CWA people. The nationally negotiated Western Electric contract is spoken of as pattern setting. The issue is wages, and the local union appears committed.
We stand ready. About 2 weeks ago, we offered to put our case to binding arbitration, and the company refused.
Southwestern Bell Division Manager Bill Hall says that the company can only use its managerial personnel to keep the phones working and wait.
We're hopeful that the strike should have very little effect on telephone service. The local dial system and the long-distance dial network make it possible for customers to dial their own long-distance and local calls.
But phone company officials do estimate, though, that it will cost the workers some $100,000 a day in wages in Dallas alone. Meanwhile, for the telephone user comes the curious experience of having a male voice answer, operator. Teal Salon reported.
One man's job has been terminated and the jobs of 3 other men have been made less in an investigation which began right here some 3 months ago and 3 long volumes ago. This is the home of Mrs. A.D. Carrizales, 3516 May, where just about that 3 months ago, an investigative committee appointed by the City Council came to this home to begin its investigation of the Neighborhood Improvement Program. That committee eventually, and for many reasons, proved ineffective, at which time the council turned the investigation and responsibility for that investigation over to City Manager Howard McMahon. He, in turn, turned that investigation over to the Fort Worth Police Department in an action which was considered at that time questionable. At this time, however, that action looks like a stroke of genius, because Lieutenant T. Walls of the Security Division has produced what has been called a comprehensive, thorough investigation, and one of the most effective in Fort Worth Police Department annals. I asked City Manager Howard McMahon what he thought now of that investigation.
Of the 173 cases which the police department talked to, 4 of the property owners alleged that they were forced to take the program. They implied this or stated that they were coerced in some way.
At the beginning also, there were charges of dollar value for dollar received. How did the investigation show this to?
Well, this is a more difficult question to answer. I think that the overall investigation showed that most of the people, as I pointed out earlier, were completely happy with the program, including price and including the work that they received on their home.
Bob Gooding from the home of A.D. Carrizales of the Neighborhood Improvement Program in Fort Worth for Channel 8 News.
This is a glass of milk, and this is a glass of milk. They look alike, they taste alike, they even smell alike, but one is synthetic milk made totally without dairy products, and they may become a threat to dairy farmers in the future. At the regional meeting of the National Milk Producers Federation, this topic was discussed today. Glenn Lake, the president of the Federation, had this to say about artificial milk.
It definitely is not to be considered a substitute. It is a synthetic, artificial milk, but it does not measure up nutritionally. In fact, clinical tests at this point in time prove that it's inferior nutritionally, or these products are inferior nutritionally to the genuine milk.
Will the cow ever become obsolete?
Well, my firm opinion is that she will never become obsolete, and in fact, consumption of milk and dairy products will continue to grow in this country.
Well, if it happened to the steam engine, it could happen to the cow. Phil Reynolds, Channel 8 News.
Well, I don't think anyone ever just completely loses the thrill of getting back into the game. I certainly enjoyed it, but I tell you, managing is a tough job. At the end of the '66 season, I had the club for 3 weeks. And, you know, when you're playing, you just have to take care of yourself. But when you're managing, you've got a bunch of folks to look after. And managing is a tough job. I think you have to have a certain type of personality about you. It's a great challenge, and I'd love to try to manage. Whether I'd be a good manager or not, I have no idea. But listen, it's a tough job.
There were 3 or 4 complaints of the price being too high. I think this is to be expected. I think many of us feel that the price of services and materials that we receive are too high in some areas these days.
What would you say positively has been accomplished by the investigation?
Well, as a result of this, we've made certain changes in the procedures in the neighborhood improvement program, which I think will strengthen the program and which should improve the program and its relationship with the homeowners in the area, which is striving to help.
Could you give us a rundown of some of the negative things perhaps that happened, some of the dismissals, so on?
Well, as a result of the investigation, disciplinary action was taken against 4 employees in the neighborhood improvement program. 1 employee was dismissed, 3 were reduced in grade and transferred to other responsibilities.
What was the cost of the NIP investigation, and do you consider it worthwhile?
We've estimated that the total cost of the investigation, including the reproduction of the documents and the time spent by the investigators, is in excess of $5,000. I would say that the investigation has been worthwhile. We have found out a good deal about the program and about how it affected the people in the area that will be of help to us as we continue the program to its completion in these 3 areas.